I'm just gonna reshare this. All right, can you see that okay, Kara?
Yeah, it's great.
Excellent. Well, welcome everyone. Thanks for joining me for a live training session about meeting automation tools. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Branden Necula. I work on our sales team here at compuvision. I've been around on the team for a number of years, and I was looking for a way that I could contribute to this live training thing, and this is what I came up with. So let's take a look at what I have for you today. So on our agenda is we're going to talk about meeting automation tools. We're going to talk about what is a meeting automation tool, what problems does it solve, what solutions exist. The two that I found that work really well is Microsoft FINDTIME and Calendly. We'll probably do a live example if we have time near the end, and then we'll do some Q&A if anyone has any questions. For the Q&A, we have 30 minutes booked for our meeting. I'm going to try and keep us right on time for 2:30. If anyone wants to stick around longer than that and ask questions, you're more than welcome to, but I'm just going to dive in from this point. So I know the big question on everyone's mind is, what is meeting automation? It sounds magical. So in short, the definition, of course, is it's a category of software that automates workflows associated with pre-planning meeting. There are some other solutions that kind of do everything, including notes at the end, but what my biggest problem is, or the question I always ask of what problem does this solve, really breaks down into kind of three challenges that I have in my role. So challenge number one, like many consulting businesses, here at compuvision, I do a lot of booking and attending meetings, and it's a cornerstone of what I do in inclusion with a lot of our other departments and people outside. However, they often include more than one person, and more often than not, they are outside of our scheduling environment, aka they are outside of compuvision, especially in my role. Challenge number two is that people we need to talk to or book meetings with very often come in different technical and organizational skill levels. I like to consider myself a fairly organized person, but I know some people's scheduling is tough for them and it's hard to stay organized. So when I have to book a meeting with someone that may not be as specifically scheduled as I am, there can be some friction. And challenge number three is, of course, communicating, coordinating schedules, and booking meetings can take a significant amount of time and effort. I'm sure almost everyone on the call today has been on one of those email chains where, you know, I'm asking Kara and Jackie what times work for you. Someone doesn't reply. Those times don't work. And all of a sudden, ultimately, we have a bunch of wasted or inefficient time for everybody involved. So as you can imagine, this is especially prevalent in my role where I'm dealing with a lot of new folks that I haven't worked with before. So I found two tools that really take this problem and make it almost a non-issue for me. So tool number one, probably the one I use most commonly, is called Microsoft FINDTIME. And like many of the tools in the Office 365 suite, it's actually an app that everybody has access to, but it's one of the many things that is kind of tucked away. And if you don't go looking for it, you may not even know that it's there. Really, what it allows you to do is it allows you to select meeting times and resources if you want, like meeting rooms, with individuals both from your organization and organizations outside of yours, and send them those times in kind of an encapsulated meeting invite. What that allows you to do is each person votes on the dates and times that works best for them. And once everyone's voted, the meeting is automatically created and sent out, which is fantastic. It's a huge time saver. So looking at the features, of course, I mentioned already, it's included in every Office 365 platform, so it's free for everybody. It integrates with Outlook or the web version of Outlook if you're using that. Of course, the big thing for this tool, the main reason I use it is it can be used cross-organization. And it can also automatically book Microsoft Teams meetings, Zoom instances, or even physical resources like a physical meeting room. Now, right now, during COVID, physical meeting rooms are not quite as in high demand as they were before, but being able to pull 4 or 5 people and then book a meeting room at the same time was a huge advantage that I used to use a lot all the time. So let's look at what that looks like. So on this first slide, what you can see here is I've created a new email message, not a calendar invite, but an email message to my personal Gmail account. Please don't sign me up for stuff, but my personal Gmail account and Kara, who of course is our head of marketing. And I've said, hey, Brandon, thanks for the call today. I'd love to set up another call with you. Here's some agenda items, and please use the meeting poll below to select the times and dates that work well for you. You'll notice in the very top right, I have a new meeting poll button in my email window. This is what happens when you add FINDTIME to your Outlook. And if I click it, it gives me this right-hand side FINDTIME panel. So you can see I've set the duration for 30 minutes. I want it to be only in work hours. And FINDTIME has shown me that the next available date that both me and Kara and I are available is the 20th. Now, if you look at the little people symbols here, you'll notice two of them are green and one of them is gray. The green ones represent people or resources inside your organization. Because I'm sending this from my work account to Kara's work account and my personal account, FINDTIME knows that both me and Kara are free at these times that it has selected. So I could click, as you see here, two of these times, 8 a.m. and 12:30 p.m., and then I can hit next. Now it asks me, okay, for those two meeting times on the 20th, where's the location? So I've put in Microsoft Teams. I've clicked the Teams button here. And then I would click the Add to Email button here at the bottom. Now at this point, it adds this snazzy looking FINDTIME meeting poll box to my email message. So when Brandon at Gmail gets this email, he's going to have this as his front page. So let's go ahead and look at what that looks like when Brandon gets this email from CompuVision. So if I go into Brandon's Gmail and I click on this Introduction to CompuVision meeting, this is the screen that I'll be presented with. So you can see here the detailed meeting options, the time zone, and then you can see that there's a poll here. So for an example, because this is in my Gmail, I can click when works for me and when doesn't. And keep in mind, you could have, sometimes I have between 10 and 20 options depending on how many people are involved. As you can imagine, the more people that are involved, the more times you want to provide because of other people's schedules. Now, if you receive a FINDTIME meeting poll and you actually have Office 365, in addition, there will be a button here that allows you to fill in your availability automatically. Because I'm looking at this from Gmail, I have to click these buttons. So I've clicked yes, both these times work for me, and then I would click vote. Now, the neat thing about me doing this from my work account is that because Kara's schedule is already free at those times, once the Gmail account votes, the meeting is booked automatically. You're probably thinking, hey, that's great. How do you manage this when it's out in the wild? And that's a great question. You have a FINDTIME dashboard, which is accessible from your Office 365 tenancy, and it allows you to monitor how your different FINDTIMEs are doing. So right now, when I created this screenshot, you can see that in the past 30 days, I have only one open, which is the one that we just looked at. I have 4 completed and 2 that are canceled. Now, just at a glance, I can tell that there's 2 attendees and no one has replied yet. So you can actually send people a reminder from here to make sure to remind them that they need to vote, or you can go in and you can edit the poll and make changes. So the results for Microsoft FINDTIME, it makes booking meetings way easier, way more fluid, especially across different organizations. And of course, the cost is included in Office 365. I just can't articulate enough how much time and energy this saves me when I'm trying to book meetings across multiple organizations with more than a couple people. So I'd encourage everyone to take a look at Microsoft FINDTIME. Now, the next tool comes into effect when people are trying to book meetings with me directly. So historically, of course, as a salesperson, what has happened is someone might contact our company and said, "Hey, Brandon, we're interested in looking at IT services with compuvision. Could we set up some time to chat?" So, of course, what do? You say, "Well, hey, I'm free Thursday, Friday, Monday, Tuesday at all these different times." You do that a couple times a day and it starts to get pretty irritating. So this is where our tool number 2 comes in, called Calendly, which is essentially a scheduling software that integrates directly into many mail platforms, Office 365 included, and it allows you to set up different types of meetings that people can self-service and book with you directly. So the brass tacks on it is people who are outside your organization can access a personalized web-based meeting platform and pick the meeting that they want to have with you and book it, which is fantastic. So if you look down below, it also integrates with different platforms like CRMs like HubSpot or other video platforms like Zoom. One gripe I have right now about Calendly is it does not yet automatically book Microsoft Teams video chats. So I am currently still using Zoom just for that one purpose, because the advantage of people being able to book meetings with me directly still outweighs not using Teams. So they have told us they're working on this, but it's not there yet. I imagine that will change in time. Of course, the landing page is customizable. You can add your own domain if you want to. We're not doing that right now. Like FINDTIME, it integrates with Outlook and most other web browsers. And then it can, of course, like I talked about, be a good alternative to sending meeting times to people in written format. So let's take a look at a real life example. So this is an email message that I sent out to a young woman by the name of Lois. She contacted CompuVision because they were having some trouble with their IT provider and they wanted to talk to us about working together. So, as most of the time happens, hey, when can we get together and talk? Well, rather than listing out all the times that I'm free to talk, I sent back a nice message. "Hey, Lois, love to talk about this with you. Do you have tomorrow morning or Friday?" And then, hey, alternately, you can click on this link and you can book a call with me directly. So there's been very few people who have pushed back at booking their own meetings. Most people find it very, very cool and very interesting that they can just do it themselves. I do keep this time tomorrow or the day after piece in there because there has been a time or two someone's complained, but more often than not, I find that someone will go ahead and click on the link and discover that they have found their way to my landing page. Now, my landing page is pretty straightforward. It has our CompuVision branding. It has my name and picture. And then, of course, you can put in some verbiage. So I've just said, feel free to pick an event. Now, I only have one event open to the public, and that's a discovery call with CompuVision. You can see that there's a little description here of what it is. Now, if someone were to click on that, they could go in and book a meeting, which we'll look at in just a couple minutes. Before we get there, I just wanted to show you what my administrator view looks like. So this is my administrator view behind the scenes at Calendly. And you can see that I have a whole bunch of different meeting types: video call, debrief, 60-minute meeting, office tour. The reason I have all these different kinds is because sometimes I don't want to book a 30-minute, I want to book a 60-minute. The neat thing about Calendly is you'll notice that there's this eye symbol here with a cross through it. I have set everything to be invisible except for discovery call with CompuVision. But what I can do is, if I wanted to, for an example, book a 60-minute meeting, I can send someone the link specifically to that meeting type and they can use it for that. So I have a plethora of these meetings that I have just in case I need them, but I have only the one scheduled, or sorry, open for scheduling. So let's look at what would happen if you were to go ahead and click on that. You would go ahead and get a screen like this. So again, we have our branding, my picture, what it is, the time investment. You can put in meeting details here. So for me, I've chosen to integrate this with my Zoom license, and I've said web conferencing details will be provided upon confirmation. The really neat thing about this is when someone actually books it, it goes to Zoom and it books a separate meeting just for this, so that we know that there's not other people attending that shouldn't be there. You'll see here on the calendar that people can pick the date and time. They can even invite other people if they'd like to, and then they can hit confirm. And what I find very often happens, like in the case of my friend Lois, Lois reached out to me a couple days or the day before and said, hey, thanks for getting back to us, replied to that email that I showed you. And the next day, they had booked a meeting. Me and Lois had spent exactly 0 minutes trading availability or going back and forth on meeting time. And the really great thing is she even invited someone else that she works with that wanted to be part of the meeting here with Tom. So, every time I see one of these come into my inbox, I just have a little smile on my face, and I just think of all the time that was saved by having someone pick their own meeting time at their own speed. And then, of course, they have this self-help option. Anytime they want in the future, they can book a call with me. So just rounding out Calendly, the result is it makes requesting meetings much easier and more fluid, especially across organizations. This one does have a bit of a cost to it. Given the amount of time and effort it saves me, it does seem quite valuable. So the cost parameters vary by licensing level. We have 2 professional licenses, and that's costing us $280 per year, so about 140 per person per year, which once you start seeing that time investment and savings, more than pays for itself, in my opinion. So that's a great tool. So we're a little bit ahead schedule, but that is the time that we had, and those are the tools that I wanted to go over with you. Kara, what do you think about doing a live FINDTIME invite just to show what that looks like?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah, sure. Have a little extra time, and then we'll go to questions and answer, and we can look at what that looks like. So I'm just going to pull up a new email message here. Kara, can you guys see that?
No, it's still on your presentation.
Oh, sorry about that. Let me just learn how computers work here. 1 second. There we go. Can you see that?
Yep.
Great. So I'm going to do the same thing we did before. I'm going to send this to Kara. I'm going to send this to my email address, which I trust no one's going to spam. And I'm also going to add another one of our staff members, Nathan, who is the VP of our sales and marketing team. Now, one interesting thing to note here is that when you add someone in the CC field, it counts them as an optional attendee, which means if Nathan doesn't reply to the meeting poll, but Kara and Branden do, it will just book the meeting. It will not wait for Nathan. This is especially useful when you're booking, for an example, a meeting room. Since the meeting room is never going to give you its options, you're picking its options based on availability. So I'm just going to go here and put meeting with compuvision. I'm going to copy and paste my message from before, and let's go ahead and do the meeting poll that we talked about. So let's jump ahead, like we said, to the 20th. Now we can see, of course, because we have 3 people now, there's 3 greens and 1 grayed out. So we can see that me, Kara, and Nathan are all free at 8 o'clock, 12 o'clock, and 12:30. We can see here at 8:30 that Nathan is actually busy. Now, because Nathan's optional, like I said, if we don't necessarily need him in this meeting, we can still select that option. We can then go to the 21st and we can pick a couple meeting options. We can go to the 22nd, we can pick a couple meeting options. And then we can go ahead and go next. As we did before, we're going to type Microsoft Teams. This will show up in the location field when the meeting invite goes out. We have selected a Teams meeting, so it will create a Teams meeting room for this. And then we're going to add it to the email. And just like that, it's all finished. We can close the Find Time section, and then we can hit send, and off it goes. So I think everyone can see how fast and easy that was to put together a meeting with multiple different people that everybody can weigh in on in terms of times and dates. And I hope everybody finds time as beneficial and useful as I have, over the past year. So I'm going to stop right there. On the screen right now, you can see that we do have some upcoming live training sessions. So next week, our own Jackie is going to be back to do some OneNote extended training. And then we have a number of other great ones coming in the weeks after that. Make sure you go to our IT resources page and sign up for them. And please feel free to share this with anybody that you work with, friends, family, anyone that you think would find this useful and during this COVID time. So at that point, I'm all finished. We've got about 5 minutes left. I just wanted to open up the floor to any questions or comments. If you'd like to ask a question, feel free to unmute yourself and ask, or go ahead and put it in the chat and we can try to answer it for you. For those of you who are all finished and leaving, thank you so much for coming, and we'll be sending out a copy of the slide deck as well that you can have to keep. So thanks, everyone.